pleasant good Wednesday evening. I'm Chase Miller. Welcome to another edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, presented to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. You don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from the coaches. So let's get right on.
Opportunity to visit with the head coach of Hillsboro Central Valley boys basketball, Elliot Rotvold. He gets a chance to visit with us as we put a bow on the season, and as we've been talking with Elliot the last few weeks, we put a bow on the head coaching career for Elliot, and it's a good time to celebrate. Coach, I know that as we look back on the season here just briefly, the region tournament, as we talked on Monday, it ended too soon for the Burros. I think there was a lot of hope and excitement after the way the regular season ended. The boys were playing really good basketball, and as seasons often do, they end abruptly. And for your guys, that's what happened there on Monday against Mayport CG.
Yeah, it's like you always tell them, there's only going to be a couple of teams that finish the season with a win, and it's when it happens in a game like that, lose or go home, or win or go home. If you lose it, you're done. Those are the tough ones. I had lots of those in my career, lots of ones where you get to move on. But for the players, it's pretty abrupt and it just finishes up. But like I told them in the locker room after the game, you can't take away from what you did during the season, even though it stings now. You'll look back here in a couple of weeks or down the road, and you'll see kind of it was a great season. We had a really good basketball team that played some really good basketball all year long, but really these last couple months, winning 12 or 14, going in the region tournament and really playing as well as anybody, like you said. But we just ran into a team that was playing well as well. Mayport CG had come in, beating the team like an Oak Grove, and had played Crafton tough, and it played Devils Lake tough, and it played Four Winds tough. So they were playing some good basketball too, and we knew that going into the game. We didn't take them lightly at all, and you could see the 3 games they played in the tournament. They the next 2 nights they played as well as anybody. They just came up a little bit short against both Crafton and Four Winds. So it's just the nature of it, and the big thing for us that night, like I talked to the guys about it, when we played them the time before, they were playing some good basketball too. We played them at their place. We forced a bunch of turnovers, like 20 plus, 21, 22, something like that. But we got some easy baskets off those. We got probably 12, 14 points off turnovers and turned them into layups on the other end. And then, we forced turnovers in that region game. I think they had 18 or 19, somewhere in there. And we had some opportunities at some easy baskets or some layups on the other end. They challenged those shots, but we just missed those opportunities in different ways. Missed some shots, bobbled the ball, got called for a carry on one. Just little things that that turned those easy baskets into 0 points for us. And then they had a couple guys step up in Perkins and Larson that threw in 31 of their 54 points. 2 guys that probably averaged 6, 7, 8 points a game, and they just stepped up big for them and made the big shots when they needed them. And we pretty much played right to our roles on our team. We didn't have anybody step up and play a big game or anything like that. And that's that's just kind of the way it goes. But like I told the guys, we were a good basketball team, and I was talking to Bryce Miller actually just today, and I got him in a class and in a study hall, so we're kind of by ourselves in here. And I said, when you're coaching, you watch, you're coaching the game, and you're focused on that, and you're focused on what you're doing. When you sit back and watch some of the other teams, like the last couple nights, watching the championship game last night and watching the other games the other night, you go, man, there's some good basketball teams in our region, and we were one of them. So sometimes you don't see how good the team is when you're coaching them, but I told them that when you sit back and watch and see where we were at, we were, like I said, a really good basketball team.
Absolutely were. It was a treat to be able to follow and to see the guys grow, because that was it. I mean, right, the last couple of years, You knew you had guys that were able to, they were on the cusp of having this, a big run potential in them.
Yep.
All that being part of this new division. This is the third year
Yep.
of the Division A, which, as you predicted, it was really tough when the tradition of the B went away. I think we all
Yep.
covered it pretty well that way. It was tough. Nobody wanted to
Mhm.
see it go the way it did. But as you'd said that at the end of the year, you said Division A is going to be something. And
Yep.
in 3 years, it's been that, and then the Burrows are there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We haven't played any kind of cupcake schedule the first 3 years of A here. I think we played 5 Class B teams out of our 66 games, and 2 of those were against Mayport CG when they were B the last 2 years. So we just haven't played a bunch of B teams. We played all the teams down south that are A, and all the teams up here that are A, and play some tough Minnesota teams, in Adabor West and Furtibald Trammy. So we get a lot of tough games. So every night you're preparing for a battle, and there's no nights that you can take off, and that's been exciting as a coach, but it's also tough because you're really it makes for a pretty good grind throughout the year. It's always been a grind, but when every night you gotta you're never going to get a night where you can kind of relax, and we're up by 25 or up by 30. You just don't get those nights. And this year was really, kind of that way where you had a lot of really good teams. I think the last 2 years in Class A, I think everybody kind of looked at those last two as Devils Lake and Kindred and the rest. I think everybody saw how good and talented those two teams were, and they got challenged at times, but it was those two teams, and if anybody could step in there, it was going to be tough to do. This year, it's been pretty wide open. We had 6 teams in our region that were pretty darn good, and you even look at a Carrington team in the 7th spot. They had some injuries in football and lost a couple guys. If they would have been healthy all year long, they probably would have been right in there as well with those other 6. So it's just good basketball, and I think it's good for the fans. I mean, every night you come out and watch a game, you're gonna see a battle.
Well, you put a bow on this season, and as the last few weeks
Yep.
came around, we were talking about, this was going to be it for you, Elliot. You were going to be
Yep.
an opportunity to be done coaching at the varsity level, something you've done for 36 years, 33 as a head, 29 with Hillsboro Central Valley. And wanted to talk on that a little bit from a standpoint of, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question over the time that I've known you. Almost half the time you were coaching for the Burrows
Yep.
in the capacity, which is pretty cool. I have to think back, and that makes me smile because I
Yep.
feel pretty lucky. I've been able to chat with you and develop relationships. But
Yep.
when you were a basketball player in high school, you played for Ed Byer.
Yep.
And between you and Ed, the only two since 1962 boys basketball coaches for Hillsboro or Hillsboro Central Valley Co-op, which is that's incredible. But was Ed one of those people that was kind of the role model that pushed you maybe into seeing that you had the coaching ability in you?
That's kind of interesting. I guess when you're a high school kid, you don't really look at those things. Looking back, I think I learned a lot from Coach Byer and what he taught us, and the way to play, and the way to carry yourself, all those things. I think you take those things with you. But when you're in high school, I don't think I ever dreamed of coming back and coaching in Hillsboro or doing any of that. When I was actually, I went into industrial engineering in college right out of high school. I mean, I loved math. I loved science. I loved lots of different subjects, but I was pretty good at math. But then got to college, and all of a sudden had to take calculus, and calculus is a little tougher math, and I just didn't put the time in, and it was a little bit of a struggle for me, and I thought, well, if I'm not going to make it in this, what's my next idea, and I kind of got interested in coaching, probably at NDSU, and we do buys and buddies with the little kids on Saturday mornings, and we did that throughout the season, or, probably, I can't remember exactly how many weeks we did it, but, just working with the little kids and working with them. I just really enjoyed that. So as I made that decision, in college, it's like, I think, I think I'm kind of interested in this coaching thing. So, thought about it, and I like history and those kind of subjects. So I thought, well, I'll just go into social studies, social sciences, and history, and try to become a coach, thinking that I'll go into teaching because I want to coach. Kind of like a lot of people do. I think I've grown into love teaching as well. But that was kind of the start of it, and then you in college you learn a lot about the game. You learn a lot about the preparation. I don't think in high school you appreciate the preparation, and then when you get to college and you see what the preparation is, it's a lot different. And then I helped student coach. After I was done, I still had to finish up a few more classes, so I helped student coach and did scouting and stuff. We back then in the NCC, you'd play. UND would play a team on Friday night, and NDSU would play that same team on Saturday. That was kind of the travel pattern. So I was the one that went up to Hislop and watched up at UND and watched UND play that night, and then I'd get back and have to put together a scouting report and take the VHS tape and use the two VHS machines and tape from one to the other to get the clips that we needed to show the guys the next morning for our game on Saturday. So I did that, and that was a lot about preparation. Learned a lot there, and then like I said, I got that opportunity to coach myself at Fargo South, coaching freshman boys, one of their freshman teams, and Tom Liam was coach there, and I know Irv knew him pretty well, and kind of got that set up and talked to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to have you do that." And that was a great experience for me. I learned a heck of a lot that year. When you're coaching freshman boys and you've been at the college level, it's a little bit different there. And it was an adjustment for me. But like I said, I learned a lot. And then Ed gave me an opportunity the next year to come here, and I coached some junior high boys and I was assistant girls. So just got an opportunity to kind of get into that coaching mode. And like I said, I think probably from Ed, you just learned a lot more, and from Coach Byer, learned a lot more about just how to treat people, and how you're supposed to act as a player and as a team, and how a team works. You learn those lessons, I guess.
I know you played college ball at NDSU, played for Coach Irv Iniger, and I'm sure to this day you might even still have some communication with Irv. I got to know him for a little bit too. He always had good things to say about you, which that's always good. You went got your start coaching, with your head coaching duties at Wakanda in South Dakota, I enjoyed listening to you gave a bit of a speech. One of the final home games at Hillsboro, got a chance to share the story of how you met your wife, Lisa, at NDSU. Well, you go to South Dakota, and the career starts, and you win a state title, and you got a family started. It's an exciting time in your life when you're getting that thing off the ground.
Yeah, it really was. I got the job down there. Ron Flynn was the kind of a legend in coaching ranks down there, and he brought me in, and the first year I was assistant girls coach, and I coached track down there. Girls were in the fall still. Did some junior high. You just coached everything because that's what you had to do, and just to make a little bit of money. So did all that, and he didn't know me from anybody else. He didn't know anything about me. He just knew that I had good recommendations from Ed Byer and from Irv Iniger, and he respected those two men. So he's like, okay, this the first year I was down there, he knew that there was some good players coming up, and so he was the head coach that first year, and he brought me on kind of as a volunteer and put me in charge of the defense. He wanted to play man up the line, on the line, Dick Bennett style defense from back then. And I said, oh, that's what we played in college. I said, I can, show you some stuff. And then eventually when I showed him the stuff, he's like, all right, I'm going to put you in charge of the defense. And I kind of took care of that. And he saw what I could do as a coach. And then, the next year he turned it over to me. And we were lucky enough to have some really good teams down there, some really good athletes in a small school of about 70 kids. And, we, and again, learn heartbreak and success at in that early years too, you know, that we were the year before we won state, we were 20-0, ranked number 1 in the state, playing really good basketball, had a really good team, and got to the district tournament down there. And you had district tournaments, you had to win your district to play in a region game to get to the state tournament. So, you know, kind of like Minnesota, it was, you know, lose and you're done anywhere. And we got upset in the district final by a team that we beat by 25 earlier in the year. They just, you know, did a couple different things to us. And, you know, as a coach, you're just, you know, just crushed by that. And then the guys came back that next year and were able to win a state title. So you kind of saw both those. And as a young coach too, you're like, you know, you win a state title when you're, you know, what it was at 20, 27, 28 years old. And you're like, hey, you know, hopefully that's the first of many, you know, you're excited that you get there. Hopefully I can get to state a bunch of times. And then we, you know, I was able to get there when I came to Hillsboro, get there in 99. We didn't win it, but I had a really good team that year. And then we didn't get there for a long time after that. And, you know, as a coach, you start to doubt yourself a little bit. You start to, you know, because I guess, you know, growing up in Hillsboro, you know, and with Coach Byer, you know, it's the expectation that you put on yourself and the pressure you put on yourself is to win region titles and get to state tournaments. And we struggled getting over the hump there for a long time. So, but, you know, like I said, learned a lot down in South Dakota, you know, still keep in touch with some of those players down there a little bit. And the guy that I coached girls basketball with, good friends with him still. And my old assistant down there, still talk to him quite a bit. So it's, you know, you make some good relationships with that, even though it's, you know, now it's, you know, almost 30 years ago, you still remember those times. And that's the nice thing. And like I said, yeah, Annika, my daughter went to her first game. I think I missed one practice when she was born. You know, I had to miss one, and on that Friday that she was born, and then you know, I think she was at a game the next Friday, I think. So it was just crazy. You know, Lisa brought her to the game, and you know, it was back to practice come Monday, and off you went.
Yeah, it's and I got you shared that story with me when we were talking state tournament here just now it's 8-9 years ago, but
Yep.
2016-17 boys basketball season. I want to, you know, go back to that was a state title for HCV Burroughs.
Yep.
I mean I remember that week of state tournament prep, and I remember that whole week like it was yesterday. And I'll never forget it. I was so grateful to be a part of it. And have that opportunity. But that was as Hillsboro Central Valley. And I'm trying to remember when the HCV co-op started. It's anything but easy to form a co-op because there's all kinds of emotions tying in. And I'm sure it wasn't a simple process with Hillsboro and Central Valley, but it's turned out to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah, it was 12, 13. You know, we'd kind of talked about it the year before. There was a couple, you know, seniors that weren't going to get a chance they weren't going to be able to field the football team up at CV. So they talked about it and allowed those couple guys to play with Hillsboro, the activity. And then we talked, you know, the talks kind of started a little bit and you know, I was all on board for it because, you know, we needed a little shot in the arm. You know, it was one of those times where we weren't getting quite as many, you know, we had a couple opportunities, you know, we've talked about that before. We had some really good teams that didn't make it to the state tournament. And I think that, you know, for a program, it, you know, people don't realize what making it to a state tournament really does for a program, because all those young kids that go to the games and they go out there and they experience that Class B state tournament back then, you know, the 5th and 6th graders and the 7th and 8th graders, and they're like, wow, I want to do that someday. You know, and when you don't give them when you don't get there, you lose that a little bit, and you lose that external thing that could have got them motivated to do a little bit more because they don't really know what that's all about. So we had some opportunities and you know, we had some injuries and things that happened there in the late 2000, you know, 2007, 8, 9, you know, that kind of derailed us a little bit. And we, you know, we'd end up with, you know, 18, 19 guys out, and you just didn't have the competition in practice. You know, the guys who were starting were playing against, you know, freshmen and sophomores every day, and they just weren't getting better, you know, and because they were dominating, those young kids. And once CV came into the mix in 12, 13, all of a sudden we had, 30, 35 guys out for practice, and you got, a lot of sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And all of a sudden guys are competing every single day to get better and to try to get playing time. And it really just put a jolt into things. And I think we've kept that going all along. Most years we get 25 to 30 guys out for it, and we play a full C team schedule. We had a lot of guys, a ton of guys this year, young guys, they're freshmen, sophomores. They played 6 quarters every single night. Played a couple quarters JV or C team. Played a couple quarters of JV, and they just get a ton of playing time, and that appeals to kids too. We couldn't play C team games back then when you only have 17, 18 guys out for the team. So it really just gave us a jolt and gave us an opportunity to move the program forward. And it's been a great thing, I think, for all 3 communities, Hillsboro and Buxton and Reynolds in both schools. For the boys basketball, it's never been a question. It's just how it is, and it's been great.
You win a championship in 17 on a Kyle Henningsgaard 3-pointer at the buzzer. I compare that to fairy tale situations. Right on to where you see John Dryberg in the video chasing on the floor, after his son, the things that happened that week in Minot are fairy tale. And then next year to have almost the exact same scenario happen in Bismarck for the boys in 18 to win the title. And it's back to back and full of drama. And Coach, those are some of the highest highs and people. Like you say, the correlation of sports to the coaching, to the players, to then the full community. That's lore forever.
Yeah. I've talked to, of course you talk about those things as it gets further away, I think I lost that video clip that I think maybe you sent me or somebody of the last few seconds of the 17 one, the last few seconds of the 18 one.
I'll find it for you.
I got it now. I found it in one of my folders. It was kind of stuck away there, and I watched it a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. You just watch those things. But yeah, it's one of those things. They talk about the lore of the Class B tournament, and they put that thing on, back when they talked about the Hillsboro Epping game and those kind of things. Those two games and those 2 shots will go down in the lore of Class B basketball in North Dakota forever. And just the way they ended. If you ever see that again, it'll be crazy, because to win 2 games like that, to win 2 state championships like that is just unbelievable. Like you said, almost we basically ran the same play for each time, a little different scenario on how they worked and how the ball got to the shooter in the corner. But it was one of those things that you'll never forget. And like I said, the great thing about that was we really had 2 different teams those 2 years. 17 we had more of a guard oriented team, and Carson Henningsgaard was a freshman, came off the bench, and Jack Cameron was a junior and started. He was the only junior that started. And then Cade Baszler came off the bench a little bit as a junior too. And those 3 were back that next year. And next year we were much more of a, pounded inside. We were big and physical and strong and played a little bit different style of basketball, and basically had kind of a different team all around. And so that made it pretty special to be able to take 2 different teams like that and really, make those things happen. And I always tell the story about that 18 team, well, two stories. 17, it was my assistants, we'd put, we didn't play Cade, Baszler, and Jack very much together that year. We played mostly 4 guards. And when Ben Dryberg got a concussion, we played Cade a little bit, and Foreman was having trouble matching up with us when we had the big lineup in there. And we talked about it a little bit, and Jason Keating and Micah Berger were my assistants. And I remember Coach Keating saying, hey, we should stick with that big lineup. They're having trouble matching up with us. So we stuck with that for the last 5-6 minutes of the game, made a run back at them. And they just couldn't match up with the 2 bigs on the inside, and got some big buckets out of those 2. Then the next year, I don't know how many people know this, but that 5 that we played the entire overtime with, had never played a minute together during the entire regular season or tournament. That was the only time those, because we rarely had anybody foul out, but that night Landon Reed fouled out late in the fourth quarter, and then Jack Cameron would fouled out really late in the fourth quarter. And we really didn't have a whole lot of ball handling that year besides Carson and Landon. When Landon went out, they pressed us and turned us over and kind of came back and tied it up. And then Jack fouled out, and we had Carson and Guy Suker and Ryan Troffgiven and Cade Baszler and Tyler Bergstrom were the five out there. And those five together, like I said, had never played a minute together, and they were able to pull out that overtime win. So makes it even more of an interesting story, I guess.
I love it. Though they were special, and I know we'll never know what would have been with the 2020 team.
Yep.
I have a feeling that was another year that we would have been, it would have been a different type of banner hanging up. But things that the little things, right? And that
Yep.
they're all big too. At the same time, as we close out, your career, you were talking about it the other day about, okay, when practices are a little tougher, there's signs, right? When things are
Yep.
maybe towards the end of but one thing you're gonna, I know you're gonna really remember all the times, all the impacts, all the opportunities, and just how much fun you had. And they're great memories. And now you get to do other things, and you talk about family and got a grandkid, and just you got a lot of things to enjoy, and you're going to have all these memories, and I'm sure people will be pulling at your ears on a regular basis, regardless, just to say hi or double check on some things, because basketball and coaching probably is never going to really leave you.
No, I never will. Somebody asked, "Oh, has it hit you yet?" No, it hasn't. I'm still finishing up kind of the season for this year and getting things prepped for, just making sure everything's in order for, for the next season. So, you always got that. And I'm sure in the summer when I don't have to go to open gym, in the evenings and get those team camps ready and go and work out with guys that want to work out, that's maybe when I'll start be like, hey, it'll be kind of nice. I've had some good conversations with my wife. Finally kind of sat down and talked to her the other night. For a week, we'd been pretty darn busy. So, we talked about some things like that. And it's, she said, I finally get you back, so that'll be nice to, because especially during the season, it's a year-round thing, but during the season, it's those players and those young men that kind of become your family during that season time. They're like your own sons, and you treat them that way, and you want them to do well, and you want them to be good people, and hopefully we've done that with the program, and I know we've got a lot of successful former players out there now, and there's going to be many more coming up, and those are the things that I guess you cherish the most. Yeah, like I always say, would I have been? I think I asked that question of somebody. I can't remember when I asked that, but I said, so would my career be any different if those two shots don't go in? I don't know. Yeah, it's an exciting thing that the shots went in. Those will be memories forever. But when it's not going to change the players, the relationships that you have, and all the things that you enjoyed about coaching. So I'm grateful and thankful that I've had this many years, and it's a couple things that get you moving out. Like I said, you know when it's kind of time, but the game's changed too, and it's a little more physical than I like it to be. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of an old school guy that doesn't wants to see that skill a little bit more and less of the physicality. But it'll be fun. I'll still watch the boys and go around, but I'm also going to do some other things. I haven't been to too many NDSU games in the last 30 plus years. Go watch some of those, maybe other things as well. Maybe travel. Haven't had a Christmas of any kind for, you give the guys the 4 or 5 days off, and that's about it. So, maybe take a little vacation or something during that time too, just to unwind. But no, it's been great. I've enjoyed it. The relationships like, with KRJB and other media, you enjoy those things, but for the most part, it's been fun. And, I'll have all those memories, like you said, for a long time.
And just from a standpoint of from Burke with KRJB, you go back, he called your games in school, and then to be able to have this relationship to continue, and I got the opportunity to be involved, and then Jake, we're attached to those championship games, which we'll cherish forever, and the post game interviews and the things that you allowed us to get into. the access. I just, yeah, thank you again. I want to make sure you heard that from all of us, and we'll all individually reach out to you too more, I'm sure. But thank you. You've always been just so good to us, and make us feel like we're involved. And that's not, like you'd say it's not about me. We say it's not about us either. It's our jobs, and it's super fun to be able to work with you and to be able to share and tell stories. It's a treat. So thank you again for being willing to, as you said, sacrifice from your family time to give back. You've enjoyed it, which also makes it a good thing. But it is a sacrifice, like Lisa said. You quoted her saying, "She get you back." It's great. It's wonderful. That's a celebration too. I also thought it was really cool that you recognize your mom and dad, and they're there still watching games with you.
Yep.
Elliot, that's cool. That's just cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is. It's great to have that support. But no, it's been fun. And hey, hey, someday you ever need a color commentator, you can pull me aside and do that. So
I love it. We will make sure to do that, Coach. We'll find some time. And you've mentioned it too. Just so many assistants, so many people involved. So what a time. Good things to celebrate.
Yep.
Yeah, lots to be thankful for. Amen. Coach, thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy all the comings. But yeah, we'll make sure we tap you every once in a while, see if we can capture. But enjoy all the good things, and thanks for all the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
You're welcome. That is Elliot Rotvold, head coach, Hillsboro Central Valley boys basketball, as we recap the season and some career conversation.
If you have concern or questions about the mental health of yourself or a loved one, Trail District Health Unit's Credible Mind platform offers convenient and confidential resources to help inform you about mental well-being. Credible Mind offers 21 different assessments to guide you in your mental health journey, from sleep quality and burnout to anxiety and depression. To get started today and learn about your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health, visit traildistricthealthunit.crediblemmind.com.
Welcome to the city of Hillsboro, a small town with big opportunity. Here, you don't just find a house, you find a quality of life. Safe neighborhoods, affordable living, and a community that treats your family like their own. Build your dream home with lots starting at an attractive price, and enjoy homeowner incentives and grant funds to help make it yours. Come live, work, and thrive in Hillsboro, where you don't just live, you belong.
Joining us now from the Central Cast Squirrels, he is Matt Norman as they gear up for Turtle Mountain coming up tomorrow or Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock from the Fargo Dome for the first game of the State A quarterfinals. And Matt, just from Thursday to where we are now, what's kind of been the message to the team? What is the concept, as you knew you didn't have to worry about a state qualifier, got to enjoy the weekend a little bit, found out who you're going to play in Turtle Mountain. So what's kind of the last, 4 or 5 days been like as you get ready for the Dome?
The last, since Thursday has just been enjoy it. You earned that 1 seed, and then you proved that it was valid by going out and beating 2 very quality teams in Wahpeton and Elk Grove. And so, you know what, there's some joy in that. So we want them to be able to experience some of that. We had them back in the gym last night. And then the conversation was, okay, now we got to get back to 0 here. Because we go to a state tournament, and it's great to be the 2 seed like we are right now, but that really means nothing. We're proud of what we've accomplished thus far, but if we want to go to the state tournament and make some noise, well, we got to lock back in, and we got to make sure we're getting better.
Yeah, you mentioned the number 2 seed. You get the first game of the day. But before we talk about your opponent in Turtle Mountain, let's just kind of recap what does it mean for this group of guys who made it to a qualifier last year, had that experience, brought a ton of guys back. Brody Runk was I think the old joke was he was the, lone elder statesman, of hanging out with a bunch of guys who were in preschool or however you wanted to say it. That was kind of the
Brody Runk in his daycare.
There we go. Absolutely. That's what it was. So,
to
bring those guys back to understand what that experience was going through a region tournament to make it to a qualifier. How much did that help this year's club, do you think, Mac, in terms of getting back to the shack, understanding what March basketball is all about?
It really helped a ton. There's always that worry if you get a bye going into the region tournament that, yes, you're going to be another day healthier or another day more rested, but you're going to have to play a team that's already played a game on that floor. And so we had to rely, yes, on all the things we've been working on all year, but it was great to know that our guys had been on that floor. We'd competed. We didn't have a bye last year by any means. And like I told you before we went on air, I think Thompson is still scoring on us last year. I mean, So it was good for us to feel that defeat, and to have an appearance there. Last year our message was we just wanted a seat at the table. And we knew we were young, but they're hungry kids. They want to be better. They want to compete. And you saw us take that step this year, which is fantastic. So the experience is priceless. And we miss Brody, and we miss his leadership and guidance, and kids just gravitated towards him. He's just an unreal kid. But this year, the team and our captains, Cash, Easton, and Zemer, they've done such a great job of continuing where we left off last year to give us a shot now of getting a win at the state tournament.
And you mentioned all three of them. They're also all region selections as well for your captains here, Matt. But let's talk about your opponent here first in Turtle Mountain, a team that you have familiarity with at least this year, right? Going up to Devil's Lake, that East-West crossover, playing Turtle Mountain, a close game, 2-point contest. So what can you take from that game that's similar to now, almost 2 months later? Or has teams changed a little bit? How do you take that first game into consideration as you get ready for game 2 here against the Braves?
I think teams change as they go throughout the year, and you're always trying to build a product that really shines in March. And no different for Turtle Mountain. I watched their challenge game a couple times now, and they're a really tough guard for a lot of teams. I mean, they average over 64 points a game, and defensively they work their tails off. They're not very long, but they still seem to rebound every rebound, and they get their hands on a ton of loose balls. So they're going to be a tough guard for us. They've got 4 kids in double digits against senior athlete of the year. And so it's honestly, yes, it's great to be the 2 seed, but it's a tough matchup for us. When we played them at Devil's Lake earlier in the year, they did a really good job of limiting our looks. We didn't shoot it very well, and a lot of that was because they kept us out of rhythm. And so that's the challenge here is, yep, we played them before. We have at least our initial scout done from earlier in the year, and we've updated that, and the kids have access to the new film and new clips that we put together for them. But the difference is, of 2 months, how much have they grown? How much have they changed? They got a player back from injury that wasn't there when they played us, and then they got another player back in his last 6 games, he was averaging a double-double. So it's going to be a tough out for us, and we really, really have to show up.
As you look at this one, Matt, just going back through here a little bit with your 2 seniors, with both Keegan Peterson and Mr. Hansen there, just kind of what do they do that people don't see to the club? Because it's very rare, but you've been through it now, right? 1 senior last year, 2 seniors this year. There's going to be a year where you have 5 or 6 seniors coming up here. But what do those 2 guys just kind of mean to the program, and what have they done that maybe people don't see on a day-out, day-in basis?
They're just awesome kids. We start with Keegan. Keegan's a 2-year starter. He's just an unquestioned effort kid. One of my guys that coaches with me, Jordan Haslow, even when Keegan was a freshman, referred to him as just kind of a microwave, because when he goes in there, something instantly happens. And so his effort is, like I said, it's unquestioned. We ask him to guard very, very good players, and he's got to do it at a high level. And so we try to keep him fresh and really rely on his instincts and just his athleticism. He doesn't always show up in the box score, but he always shows up on the floor for us. And Riley is just such a bright kid. I was talking to our coaches after Thursday, and I don't think there's been a single game where Riley hasn't known the scout in and out. And so when we're playing, Oak Grove or Wahpeton in the region tournament, and I'm calling out plays or actions that they're likely to run, and Riley's adding to it, and he's right. And so his dedication, even when he's not able to get on the floor, his consistency is or consistently as he maybe would like, he's still contributing, and he's still helping us get better, and that's a big deal. We always preach that we're better together, and we want to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves, and that's part of high school sports, right? Not everybody gets to get their name announced before the tip, but we can all be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
2 more questions for you before I let you go, Matt. Taking a look at this particular weekend, win, lose, or draw, you got 3 more games left with this group of Central Cass Squirrels, this 25-26 version. So what's the one thing you want them to see? What's the one thing you want to see from them for the final weekend that you're together here once you get to the Dome?
I want to see some growth. That's been our path this entire season. We've talked before, but we always want to go 1-0 in every quarter, every half, and obviously in every game. With a young team, our our consistency isn't always there. I mean, our effort, I think, is unquestioned, but our execution isn't always, without some room for growth. But they've done such a great job, and that's been our path to success. Is, some things are going to go poorly for us, and that's okay. How do we respond to it? How do we put one foot in front of the other, and how do we go out and how do we compete? If we understand that, other teams are coached too, if we understand that there's going to be some adversity that we have to face, but if we can compete together, we're going to have some successes, and I think we're going to be successful in this state tournament. And that's our message. It might not be a state championship. We're sure going to go out there and do everything we can to make sure we get a shot at one. But there are a lot of great teams in this tournament, and so the task is tall. We've just got to make sure we go out and we control what we can control.
A final thing for me, Matt, is obviously 3 years of a Division A, Division B, Division AA, three division system. Folks still call it classes, and rightfully so. A first time that Central Cass has been there since you bookended, right, with the girls and the boys and the old
Yep.
Class B. But is there any parallels to this year's team that was from that 2023 team, the last team that made it to state and obviously made that run inside the event center in Bismarck? Matt, is there any parallels or things that you kind of can remember, or is this kind of its own unique team with unique guys and what kind of they do and what they bring on and off the floor?
I think each team is unique. And yes, we've got some kids that were a part of that. Keegan and Riley were in the program. Keegan traveled with us to the state tournament. And so that's super fun. We got a lot of brothers that were a part of the team, whether it be Kellen's brother, Colton or Kellen's brothers, Colton and Tyler. They were a part of that team. Eli Boer was there, and a huge player for us there, and Cole's on this team. And so there is some of that parity, but each kid is unique. And we had a pretty effective bench in 2023. I would argue our bench this year is even more effective. It's one of the things that we're blessed with, right now, is we've got a lot of kids that love ball and they work their tails off in the off season to get themselves better. And so, yep, there's some things that are similar, but each year it's a little different. Each year we got to try to mold the kids into the best versions of a team as we possibly can. And so hopefully we have a similar success, but the path might look a little different.
Hey, Matt, as always, thanks so much for your time and best of luck here at the state tournament against Turtle Mountain coming up on Thursday.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much.
That again, Matt Norman, head coach of the Central Cass Squirrels, will have all three of their games for audio only coverage from the Dome coming up here at the State A.
Hillsboro Economic Development Committee supports businesses in the Hillsboro community in the form of loans and grants. Experience Hillsboro. There's more at 104.
Joining us here from LaMoure-Litchville, Marion, is their head girls basketball coach that has been Holen fresh off a state championship here as they were able to take down Central McLean, Benson County, and Washburn, respectively, at the State B in Minot. Ben, now that you've had some time to kind of soak it all in a little bit here, the travel back to Lamoure, the welcome back into LaMoure-Litchville, Marion, to have the community sport that you had, just kind of, I guess, first, what stands out most to you, winning a state championship for the State B?
Yeah, that exactly. When sports are at their best, they teach us about life and connect us. They bring us together, they form chemistry and bonds and relationships. And Class B has always been special in that sense. When a team makes a run, the communities rally around them, and it's just so much fun. And you get to be in your own little world for a couple of weeks. You get to pretend like there's nothing more important than the team that's making a run. We have things in proper perspective. We understand it's just sports. There's real life adversity out there. But that being said, we were so happy for the girls to get that experience. To have everybody support them the way they did and kind of rally around them. The return home was a blast. I mean, I was given good advice by people who know more than me to just try to enjoy every single moment. And yeah, it's been incredible. I'm just so happy for the girls still.
As you look at it here, and just to talk about the state tournament, Nora Delabar on the all tournament team, it seemed like she had, 15 points, 15 rebounds almost for an average at times here, Ben. Addie Smith, your tournament MVP. So let's just talk about those two in particular. What did they mean to the, basketball team up in Minot at that state tournament?
Yeah, those two were so poised and so mentally tough when we hit the point in our season where we dealt with some basketball adversity and some injuries and things of that nature. Those two were just such great leaders from that point on. They've always been great leaders, but we were at a turning point, and the way that those two handled it was the difference. And they just deserve so much credit in how they led and how they were able to kind of compartmentalize some emotional things and continue to lead us. Nora being a senior, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on about all three of our seniors. They were just such great kids to have, and we will miss them so much. We'll miss them as people mostly, and then we'll miss them as basketball players secondly. And Nora is, the captain of that bunch. And she's as consistent as anyone I've ever coached or played with or been around. She's as positive and as caring as anyone. Like, she genuinely is so easy to root for because she's just such a kind-hearted human being and such a hardworking person. Yeah, and then Addison is, a junior, and she's one of the other captains, and she lives and breathes it. And she has worked so extremely hard and is deserving of the success that she's been blessed with. But they're both such good kids. I know that I tend to always talk about that, but that's just kind of what I want everybody to know, and what I want them to remember is that they're great basketball players, but they're great humans as well. They're great kids that just happen to work hard at basketball, but they're incredibly selfless, and they just have a great attitude. And that's what I hope that their quote legacy, I guess, ends up being.
You mentioned a legacy, and I think a lot of people were wondering when there was maybe rumors out that, hey, Annika Lesko might be coming back this year after, the injury she suffered against Valley City. When you saw Annika Lesko here, Ben, physically return to the team and be part of that as well up in Minot at the state tournament, just to kind of take us through her journey, because she has been battered and bruised. It seems like the last year was going through some different adversity with injuries as well, trying to come back to the court or trying to come back to her respective athletic event. So what can you say about Annika and just kind of her perseverance here going through the injury, and what did that kind of do to the club once you got to Minot playing as well?
Yeah, it was one of those situations where it was devastating, and in the end, it ended up bringing us closer together. Those situations, that's your choice. You can wallow in it and feel sorry for yourself, which we did for a little while because it was devastating. But then you have to at some point get back to work and use it to come closer. And she deserves so much credit because in her absence, we weren't sure if she would play again this season. It was a day by day situation with rehab and with just trust that if it was meant for her to play, doors would open. And if it wasn't meant for her to play, doors would close. And she deserves so much credit for the 6 games in which she didn't play because she was still such a good leader. She is the spiritual leader of our team. She's the emotional leader oftentimes, and she's an extremely intellectual, high cerebral player because she's a film addict. She loves the game, and she was able to bring all of those things to the table in her absence. And I was just so proud of her for that. And I could see her. I mean, she was on the bench with us in the district and regional. It was miserable for her. Like, she wanted to be out there so bad. That's what it's like as a fan. You're just subjected to it, and there's not much you can do, and it feels a little bit torturous. As a coach and a player, you're involved in it. It's enjoyable. You don't see it the same way. She got a slice of being an assistant coach, or a player on the bench, and it was so hard for her, but she kept a good attitude. And then just to have her back physically practicing leading up to some of those games was big for us emotionally because she was acting like herself again. It was providing a spark for her, and it was providing a positive element for her. And that was big for the rest of us as well. And, the Washburn game ended up going the way it went, which I think, I trust was meant to happen. There wasn't going to be a whole lot of situations in which she made an appearance because it was still day by day. And it just ended up working out that way. And I'll never forget the last time that I asked her, are you sure you're ready to go? Like, are you ready to check in? She was so mad that I was still asking because it was about the 4th time, and then from there, she just showed such physical and mental toughness to find a way to play the way she did. She had to stylistically adjust a little bit, but she just did such a good job of finding a way to be a factor. And then the uplifting effect that her as, our leader, having one of our leaders back, it was big. We certainly weren't able to accomplish what we were lucky enough to accomplish without her. There's no question about that. But yeah, I'm just so happy for her. I'm relieved and I'm glad to see her resting and healing. And I'm just so happy that, her toughness, especially mentally, was at least on display for everybody because again, just such a great kid, great family, and just so deserving of that moment.
One or two more questions for you, Ben, before I let you go. Obviously, the Barnes County basketball tournament, I'm not sure how many tournaments in the North Dakota history can say that they had two state champs in one tournament at some time during the year, right? With yourself, with Valley City, you played them twice as well. So, what did Valley City, what did a Benson County late in the year, what did those games provide for you once you got into postseason play for districts, regions, and your eventually run to a state championship, do you think?
Yeah, those are big ones. Those are playoff games. Those are the ones that feel like playoff games. And it wasn't just those two. There were several games. Our record ended up only having two losses, but we won a lot of close games. It's a little bit misleading in that sense. But those are the ones that feel like the playoffs, that have the intensity level, that have the atmosphere. You're making adjustments constantly. Halftime's tense because, you're up five or you're down five. It's just games that really do simulate the playoff games. And man, I have nothing but respect for the teams that you brought up and all the teams we play. But yeah, Valley City, congratulations to them for finding a way to do it again. I was at the Mayville playing game with them in Carrington, and that was one of the crazier basketball games I've seen in a long time. And you did kind of have the sense that whoever snuck out of there was going to get hot because it was such a crazy game. And those two were two of the best teams. I mean, you feel for Carrington because they're so well coached and they're so good, and they'll be back. They always are. But yeah, congratulations to Valley City for finding a way to do that, which is just so impressive. And then the Bensons and the Maple Rivers and the Lintons and the, Sargent counties and the Kidders. We had a good schedule. We played a good schedule. And I have nothing but respect to all of the teams. But it's those games that force you to adjust and that maybe you don't have your best that night and you have to find another way to figure it out and get across the finish line. Those are the games that, yeah, ultimately get you ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, without question, you look at some of the players you played against, right? A Katie Burchell, a Kenner, a Violet Richmond, a Kadoon, a Zimmerman. There's just different matchups for all of those, right, Ben? That you have to go as a coach going, how do you try to minimize this player? Because you know they're going to score, but how do you try to get in front of them and make it a detour as best as you can throughout the course of a game, right?
Yeah, so good. All those players that you just listed are so good, and you can just see how hard they work. Those are the kids that have probably been back in the gym since the season ended. Or at least have been thinking about the game and watching film, and yeah, and they deserve the success they have because you can just sense they're all hard workers. But yeah, so fun. I mean, when you bring up the specific details like that, again, my mind goes back to how much I miss it, like how much I wish we could go back to the first day and replay all those games and face those opponents and the Barnes County tournament and everything. We were just so fortunate, and yeah, we're grateful at this point. I personally am just missing it.
Final thing that I'll ask for you, Ben, it probably puts the bow to what you said. What are you going to remember most about this year's team when someone maybe has already asked you about it? Maybe once you get to the summer months and it's kind of into Babe Ruth Legion baseball season and someone comes up and says, hey, maybe haven't seen you since, mine. I just wanted to say congratulations again. What do you think you're going to remember most? Is it the Holen hankies that, kind of had
Oh,
the
no,
beard? Is it the girls? I mean, what was going through? Because I know the Holen hankies definitely made their way on social media pretty good.
definitely not that. Yeah, probably just how close the girls are. It's a very tight knit group. Like we just enjoyed being on the road together in those moments like that so much. As you age, it's kind of funny. Those are the moments you look back on the most. You forget about the results of the game, you forget about who won the championship and this and that, and you start to just remember all of the moments on bus trips and restaurants and hotels and the funny things that happen or all of those different things that aren't necessarily basketball related. You for sure remember the games, and obviously the game itself is what brings us all together, but I'll just remember a lot of those team moments, that were off the court because it's a fun group. They get along so well, and that makes a huge difference. Chemistry is a big deal because it's a long season and you face trials and there's ups and downs, and when your attitude is remaining consistent and positive, it goes a long ways. And this group has that more so than most groups I've been around. And I think that's what I'll remember most, just their close-knit nature and their attitude.
Hey, Ben, as always, thanks for the time. Congratulations again on the championship, and we'll let you enjoy March a little bit more here, and looking forward to seeing you somewhere down in a baseball field, a court somewhere soon.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you having me, and enjoy the playoffs here. I'm sure you're going to be busy. Enjoy the rest of the March Madness.
And again, Ben Holen, head coach for the LaMoure-Litchville Marion State girls basketball team here on YourLiveEvent.com.
Don't be fooled by that beat-up old cap. Its faded crown represents the tireless work of America's farmers and ranchers. Its sturdy brim, their dedication to providing our nation with a safe, affordable food source. So we'd like to tip our hat to them. Farmers Union Insurance, protecting those that protect America's food source.
Visit with Ryan Opdahl, your local Farmers Union Insurance agent in Hillsboro.
Hi, I'm Dana, and I live in Warroad. Warroad is a pretty special town. When we moved here, not knowing anyone, I experienced all those feelings. What if this isn't the right place? Will my children be able to grow up here and thrive? All I can say is do it. It's well worth it to move to Warroad. We were welcomed with open arms. It provides so much for a small family. There's so many different opportunities here in Warroad.
This week's Dakota Heritage Bank Crowning Moments brings you highlights from your live event broadcasts, celebrating standout performances and achievements from our local athletes. These are the moments that inspire us all. Moments of determination, teamwork, and success. Dakota Heritage Bank, helping dreams come true. Sharing our heritage, sharing our future.
11-10 Harvey Wells County. Pass stolen by Dang. Will jam it.
Besky comes in. Left side drive. Misagatis steps back. Three good at the buzzer. Misagatis with a halftime buzzer beater.
Quickly for Zaire. Scoops it up short and a rebound for DuBois. Delorme sets with a three. Yes. Delorme with 10. That's his second bomb of the game, and the Indians have 3.
Gullickson, make it Henriksen, lost it, right block, nearly turned it over, out to Gullickson, left wing, 3. He can't make the layup, but he makes his third triple of the game. Gullickson's got 16.
Referee's explanation. And Deng with a block of Mason Palmer.
Over on the left side, Gullingsrud in the corner. Now they kick it back out. A long 3 good. Oh my goodness, Duden. That thing was from Plummer.
Larson, 3 from the left, short. And the Indians get the rebound. Deng gets a layup and a foul.
Inbounds here. Isaac Jacobson takes the pass into Tyler Loeb. Down the lane. Step back floater. It's good! As time goes under, Loeb hits the game winner over Welch. Tyler Loeb sends the Park Christian Falcons on to the 6A section championship game.
Mason Palmer on the throw-in. Baseline right. Nice pass for Exner to score.
Turning, spinning in the paint. Ball flies in the air from Mason Palmer. He'll get it back. 17 on the shot clock. Max Palmer from Portland buries it.
A couple feet inside the line. And here comes Steven Argyle pushing left side. Winorovich, nice spin move, middle of the paint, and banks it in for 2.
Right side, kick it out to Lillimone for 3. It's off the mark. Rice goes in for the rebound, nearly tipped it back in. He'll get it to a three-pointer in the corner. Lillimone in front of the students section gives Grafton the lead.
Possession there from Breckenridge. Henning with the ball. Misagatis now over to the right side. We'll go to Despard, now back up. Here, top of the key, step back, 3 up and good! Hornets knock down another one.
3-point basket with minute 35 remaining in the third quarter. Now a steal. Patriots turned it over. Up the floor, Halfley gets by the defense. Halfley lays it in by Chase Weber, and Devils Lake can run out the clock. Firebirds will try to do just that. And for the third year in a row, the Devils Lake Firebirds are region champions.
Thread gold for Wolski. And a takeaway. I'll lead ahead for Rice, who'll jam it in.
Inbounds for the Firebirds. Palmer up. Shot good. Max Palmer. He'll pick it up, looks to pass. He'll swing it. Joe Taylor redirects the ball. Throws one up. The bucket's good and a foul. Little bit of circus there from Joe Taylor.
Rice. Now he lofts the three. Yes, the rainbow three by Rice.
Make it the right short corner, rather. Jabbing baseline, flips it out to Winorovich. Downhill drive with the left hand. Slides through, and he finishes and one. And he flexes on him as he lays on his back on the floor.
Looks to attack the baseline, pulls it out, dribbles up on top. Pass now deflected away. Misagatas with the steal. Back the other way. Lays it in off the window. Misagatas with a steal and score gives him 25.
Duden at the top of the key. Duden pulls back, driving the lane. Duden underneath, reverse layup. Oh, what a play by Thompson, and what a pass from Duden. They connect again with each other. Coons across the timeline. Gets it back. Pass tipped away. Rosted with the steal. The jam! Nathan Rosted with the steal and the slam dunk.
Join us, part of our senior spotlight this week from Northern Cass is Natalya Gietzen joining us here, committed to Mayville State for collegiate volleyball. Let's just start there for you here, Natalya, just making it way through to have a chance to play collegiately at the hard court for volleyball. Just what made Mayville State the right spot for you, do you think?
So, yeah, previously from Northern Cass, we had Jocelyn Austin and Noelle Erickson. So when the coaches reached out and after my visit, I kind of went and talked to them and I was just like, what was your experience like? Do you have any pointers? Like anything like that? And it was a really great conversation. They said such great things and it just felt so natural and so right on our visit to be there.
As you go through as well, what's something you're going to be studying once you get on campus at Mayville State or something to pursue a little bit for your major?
Yeah, so I plan on being a physical therapist. So my plan right now is to go into their allied health program to get my undergrad done, and then from there go to a graduate school.
As you go from this standpoint, just volleyball specific, what's something that you learned from volleyball that you've kind of taken with you outside of your normal day-to-day walk of life or school life, do you think?
Yeah, being open to feedback is one of my biggest things. On the court, I know that my coaches want to see me succeed. So what can I take from them to get me there? From teachers, they want to see me be my best student version. So, again, what can I do to get there?
For the particular skill set that comes with volleyball, when you're younger, what is something that someone should harness in on? A little bit different for every sport, but is it passing, obviously serving? What's a skill set or two that someone should hone in on early when it comes to volleyball here?
Yes, just the fundamentals of a little bit of everything. It's going to make you a well-rounded volleyball player in general. I know that I don't serve a whole ton, but if coach ever wants me back there, I want to be confident that I can get it over. If I get thrown into pass, I just want to make sure I have the fundamentals down to provide for my team.
A couple of favorite volleyball memories, whether it's with Northern Cass, maybe it's something with JO or travel, just kind of what's one or two that come to mind for you?
I would say from this year would be first round of regionals against Kindred. We had already lost to them once in the season. So it was kind of like, this is it. This is what we're going to remember. So when we were down in the fifth set, I just remember sitting on the bench and having so much confidence in Avery to go serve and Harper, who was thrown in to serve. I was just confident in our passers and our setters, which did lead me to getting 2 kills at the end, which were very important. So just knowing that I can trust these girls so much is huge for us. And the excitement was just unmatched.
As you go through from a volleyball standpoint, was there any superstitions for yourself or the team, over the last couple of years that kind of stand out? Or was it, we just went to warm-ups and got ready for that first serve?
Yeah, team bonding is a really big thing for us. So Emma Hovdenis and I, we would pray every game, just kind of during warm-ups. Reese Lavig and I would hold pinkies during the anthem. In the locker room, we would all just get together and pray and really try to connect with each other, which I would say translates onto the court.
As you go from there, just favorite school subject that you've kind of learned about at Northern Cass, or what's maybe a particular subject that you kind of got to enjoy a little bit more than maybe you thought, going into that?
Speech, actually. I'm really not a fan of public speaking, but it's a class with seniors, so they're all my classmates, they're all my friends, and I've just grown really more comfortable within that setting and everywhere else, I guess.
We mentioned before the interview started that part of choir as well, and you're doing a musical here at the end of the month with High School Musical. Just take us through, just kind of someone hasn't heard about High School Musical, maybe what you're going to be performing with Natalya, kind of your particular character or group that you're going to be with. So just kind of take us through a little bit of preview of the High School Musical coming up at Northern Cass.
Yeah, my volleyball teammate Marley Wilner is one of the leads. We've got some pretty interesting numbers. I do have a little part, it's a singing part. I'm a little worried about that. But I mean, it's been a great experience learning the dances and the songs. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a weird feeling. Yeah. I don't know. There's just so many moving parts that most people might not think about if they weren't in a musical yet. And it's a big thing at Northern Cass. We alternate between middle school and high school. So I love that I get to do this musical on my senior year, kind of go out with a bang.
As you move forward here, just in terms of some words of advice, if there's someone that wants to have a chance to maybe be a collegiate player in their respective sports here, what would be a particular set of words that you'd like to say, or just something that you learned on your experience to where you are today?
Yeah, be really open to change. I have only been a middle for 2 years, actually. So if somebody would have told me that this is where I would be right now, committed to Mayville as a middle, I probably wouldn't have believed them. But really just putting that trust in my coaches when they saw an opportunity, and then me viewing it as a chance to play, more playing time is always better. So yeah, be really open to that. The more skills, again, it's just going to make you a better person and a volleyball player.
Was being a collegiate athlete on the radar, or was it something that as you got a little bit older going, I think this might be an opportunity that I need to go explore a little bit? Like, when did college maybe become, hey, I might be able to be a collegiate athlete at some point?
Yeah, my mom was actually a collegiate athlete at NDSU. So always kind of having that in the back of my mind of she knows what she's talking about. So I guess I should probably listen. And I would say it really kind of started last year, towards the end of the year, when I had grown more comfortable with being a middle. It was kind of, how much do I want it? I can put the work in over the summer and the off season to get me where I am today, or I could just, leave it at high school, and that's not a bad option either. But I knew this is something that I was really interested in. So having that motivation and having the support system of like my mom and coaches really just helped me feel comfortable with my decision to tour Mayville and to finally commit.
And Natalya, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck to you in the High School Musical, and once you head off to Mayville State in the fall.
Thank you.
That again does it for the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, is presented to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. I'm Chase Miller. Make sure you join us every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for another edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show.